Hi, this is Awakening Talk with Danielle.
And Earl.
And today's episode is about timelines and dimensions.
All right. Well, you go ahead, because I'll just jump in when I
So,
remember what I'm talking about.
we had been talking this week about how we were going to start off by saying what happened to us during the week and give a little fun little.
Oh yeah, like
thing.
what we learned during this week.
Yeah. So we're gonna start doing that. What we learned already. Earl's forgotten, so that's cool. So we're gonna start probably with since last Wednesday, since this is a week. We do this every Wednesday. Actually, today's Tuesday because I have a funeral to go to tomorrow. So we're recording one day ahead. So very fun.
So this weekend we redid our little back office guest house to turn it more into a like spiritual retreat type of place.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, I realized we were moving the furniture around, trying to decide what to do, and we had this table in the kitchen. You've seen some other videos. We had the computer the other way, facing the kitchen. And we had this little table that was like a little cafe table with a flip up thing, and it was perfect for this space.
Yeah.
Well, as we were trying to get more room for what we actually wanted to turn this place into, I just didn't want to get rid of this table. And so it turned out that once I realized what was going on with myself was I actually had an attachment, some kind of energetic attachment to this table. And I think what I realized afterward was I remember getting that table and it was perfect for what we were doing with this house in the past, right? And so I was holding on to this perfection of what the item used to be for, but for the past. And it wasn't what we were presently doing. So it didn't work in the present, but I was still holding on to this thing. And so once I realized that, it kind of dawned on me that I was having this stupid attachment to this stupid table.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I'm done. Let's get rid of it. And as soon as I got the table out of the house, I felt the release of like exactly like we were talking about last week, like cutting the cord. I think I had a cord to this stupid table, right? So I wanted to share that with you guys just so that, this pertains not only to like stupid little items, but, with relationships too, where if you're holding on to something that was perfect in the past, but your present circumstances aren't the same, you're trying to change, you don't have to carry all that baggage with you. There are times where you can, morph relationships into other things, even as simple as like relationships at work, if you're moving into other, avenues of work or different businesses, but also obviously more important relationships too. And I don't say that relationships are superficial or anything else, because if we didn't have a rock solid relationship, we wouldn't have lasted through this whole crazy process. But just have an awareness of what you're trying to accomplish presently and take stock of the items, the people, of everything that is maybe keeping you in that past tense and keeping you from moving forward, right?
So I have something to say about that because we're getting divorced now. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, I have something to say about it because it was funny that he mentioned a couple of things there. Because this week, YouTube person that we listened to, she was just talking about how this energy has come for like, and she was explaining how like it's okay to let things go, and it was so funny because we've had this experience this weekend with the table, so it was pretty crazy. But well, to be fair, I will tell you this. I got that table when we first moved here, and I actually paid like I don't know, $75 for this table. I mean, it wasn't anything big, but I remember like I was looking around for a table, and I was telling him, I was like, "Listen, I'm gonna find a table for that room, and he's like, well, why do we even need a table? You know, it's just an office. So, and I said, because, you know, it's really nice because whenever I write, I sometimes eat lunch, and then, you know, then people could come over, you know, and then you and I could sit down and eat. And then it was so funny because I was looking at the table and I really hated the table. The table was so ugly, and I kept saying, this table's ugly, and if it's going to stay in this house because we've improved this place so much better, I was like, it has to be changed to fit. I mean, uh, aesthetics wise, I mean, it was perfect. It was the right height, you know, it was the right size for the room. But as far as looks, it went with, like, it was really country, and it wasn't anything that, you know, we even had decorations for. And I kept looking at it, and I kept trying to cover it up with things like tablecloths and everything. And we moved it around because, you know, he really wanted to keep it. I was like, well, you know, why don't we just take it out and then put it in the shed for a little bit? And then, you know, if you can't get rid of it, we can bring it back in. And I didn't really understand that he was having some weird attachment thing with it. I
didn't either.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't even think about it.
Dawned on
So
me.
he was telling me later he has this attachment. But yeah, it was so funny because as soon as I got out of here, it opened up the whole room, and we had so much room. It was like, holy cow. But to be fair, really what opened up, we had a desk right there, and we had to move the desk. Well, we had nowhere to put the desk. We had to put it where the table was. So if we didn't have the desk, we could have had the table. However, the table was ugly, so it really needed to go. But that's what that was. But
because we're moving forward with this, you know, spiritual project of
we
ours,
no longer need a table.
We don't need the table.
So
we needed to turn this place into more of a spiritual retreat.
So what we're doing is we're opening up our own, like, little energy center kind of thing. And I mean, I emphasize on little because this is like 360 square feet. But this is very cool. So I'm going to actually show you. So we're actually in sort of the kitchen area right now. We have so there's the kitchen, obviously. There's a little thing here. You know, just simple. Earl, here's me. And then here's the living room and sort of like our waiting area, which I really like a lot. And it's just so nice. And, you know, we got it all set up. Obviously the ring light's there. But then there's back here behind Earl's head, that side is the bathroom, and it's really nice. And then here's a bedroom. Oops.
That way.
That way. It's all turned around. But there's a bedroom there, and it's where we have a massage table, we're going to be doing Reiki and doing some energy work. It's going to be really awesome. So we're really excited about it. And we're building the whole thing in the backyard. We're going to do this gazebo type prayer thing in the back, and it's going to be awesome. Because when we went to Isetti Ranch in Washington, they had the same thing. And so we really liked it. We both did. And we bought these prayer flags and some other stuff, which we left in the drawer of the desk. Mm-hmm. And so we have to go get that. But anyway, we're really excited. So back to what I was saying about the energy thing. This lady I watched, she was saying that in order to, like, people would pray, right? So, you know, you ask for things and set out good energy. And in order to get those things, a lot of times what you have now, like, so say I wanted to be a CEO of Microsoft, okay? And say every day I was like, okay, I saw myself as the CEO of Microsoft. I'm praying that I'm going to be the CEO of Microsoft. I want to do everything I can in order to have that job to be a CEO of Microsoft. Then something in my life now has to change. And if it's for my highest and greatest of good, and they agree with it, my higher self agrees, and God agrees, then they will find a way to make it happen. So that might mean that if that's what I want more than anything, if that's where I'm called to be, if that's what I signed up to do, he might not be included in that contract. You see, it doesn't matter if we had a contract previously, he might not be included in that contract afterwards. So that's what happens. So So, like, a lot of people have to realize that in order to get some of the things that are for your highest and greatest good, sometimes other things have to go in order for that to happen. So, I don't have any desire to be the CEO of Microsoft.
No, I hope not.
But anyway, no, it's actually kind of interesting. So she was talking about that, and a lot of people that listen to her were kind of like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and I have to let go of some stuff. And I was thinking about it too. It's like a lot of times, like, when you're in a relationship when you're young and you say, oh God, oh, I'll do anything for this guy, and that whole unanswered prayer. Yeah, thank God for unanswered prayers, because I would have had some doozies. But God knows what is of your highest and greatest good, and that's the way, and you do too. So that's how you're being steered. So your higher self comes in. We have guides that interfere a little bit to help us when we ask for it and when we allow it to happen. So yeah, so that's that. So this kind of has to do with timelines also.
All right.
So I segued right into it. So timelines.
Timelines. So scientifically speaking, if we're going with the whole energetic universe idea and how matter is just a construct of energy interacting with each other, right? And your brain is a receiver of information, and you're receiving moments that are stacking up against each other, right? And so technically, if you want to split it up this way, just giving the motion of a hand can be a frame of a moment, another frame of a moment, another frame of a moment, another frame of a moment, all put together like a movie, right? And what's really cool, these mathematicians mapped the neurons of the brain firing, right? And they fed all the information into a big number crunching computer, and it spit out this graph of sacred geometry of pinpointing where the neurons were firing. And so basically, long story short, without getting too crazy, is that your brain builds up this world that you see and tears it down and builds it up again and tears it down 400 times a second. And that's the reality that you see and interact with as matter in this third dimension.
That's really cool.
That is really cool. So if you think of it, we're witnessing this high-speed movie that your brain is feeding to your consciousness and witnessing this movie evolve. So that being said, every decision that you make and every movement that you do can technically be an offshoot. Every decision you make could be an offshoot to another timeline, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the basis of that.
Okay, so 4 years ago, 3 years ago, man, it's been almost 4, right? 2019. What is that?
Which your timeline jump?
Yeah,
about 4.
It's 4. It's almost 4 years ago. I was having one of my crises, and anyway, I was upset about not being able to see my brother again, and then I kind of had this like thought was, I asked God if I would see my brother again, and I mean, I had already seen him. Remember, if you remember the first episode talking about light and how I saw him in the bedroom, and I actually did see him there. So I figured I could see him again, but I'm sort of like trying to trick God and like, let me see him again. And yeah, it doesn't work that way. You could just ask. But anyway, I was asking if I would, ever see him again, and I kind of figured I could, and but it was like without dying. It was this whole big thing, because I was like a little bit frightened at this time. And I didn't get anything. I didn't get an answer or nothing like that. And so I had asked a friend if, because she was supposedly intuitive, and I asked her if I would. And she couldn't, she had no idea. Basically, she didn't know what she was talking about. But anyway, later on that night, I went upstairs. I walked upstairs to my bedroom again, and I laid down. And no sooner did I close my eyes than I was in an alternate timeline. So, I know this sounds crazy.
So you basically like woke up as
I'm getting right
Okay.
to it. I went into another Danielle. So it was me, but it wasn't me. Like I knew that like something was weird, and my brother did too. So this is very strange. So when I lay down in bed, I close my eyes, and the next thing I know, boom, I'm into another Danielle. Now I'm not asleep, mind you. Like I'm laying in bed. Now I'm not aware of anything that's going on here, so you could probably say, "Oh, you fell asleep and you had a dream." No, I didn't. I know the difference between a dream and what this was. This is not what it was. So it was so weird. I was laying down, closed my eyes. I'm in this other Danielle, and I hear my dad's voice. My dad said, "Hey, can you walk your brother home?" And I was like, "Dad," and I was just getting ready to tell him, Brent, passed away, And I look over, and my brother's sitting on the floor, and I'm like, I look at him, and I'm like, and he's looking at me, and I was like, my dad goes, "Danielle, can you walk your brother home?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I get up, because I'm also sitting on the floor. I get up, and I'm like, "But you live," because he lived in this timeline. My brother lived like 5 miles down the road, about, from my parents. And this particular timeline, he lived across the street in my neighbor's house from when I was in high school. And I was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, where do you?" He's like, "I live over here." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Because
So
I had no idea what was happening.
You're just going along with it.
Yeah, I had no idea. See, I wasn't consciously aware of any kind of like that Danielle's memories or any kind of thing. Like, I don't know if she just went to sleep or she moved aside so I could get in there or what. But I'm walking with my brother, and his arm is around my arm. And we get over to his house, and I walk in, and it was so weird. He lay down on the floor, and and I looked around his house, and he had like this goofiest, like, he had like Christmas decorations up, and it was summer. Like this, it was summer. It made absolutely no sense, but he's a guy, so whatever. And I had a conversation with him, and he was talking about his wife, and they weren't like together anymore. So it totally made sense that, you know, he had weird Christmas decorations up, because you never would have had Christmas decorations up, that long. And anyhow, we had this conversation, and I looked at him, and I felt so overwhelmed. And I told him, I said, "God, I miss you so much." And he looked at me really oddly, really, really odd. Like he knew something was wrong with me. And he knew something was different. And he kind of stared at me for a minute. And I don't know, something in him, like, I don't know what it was. Like, he recognized that there was something different. And he told me that he missed me too. And I said, "I love you." He said, "I love you." And the next thing you know, I'm out. I'm back. I'm back in the bedroom, and I'm like, what the hell just happened? So I had just got done asking God if I'd see my brother again, and the next thing I know, I'm in this other timeline. So anyhow, I didn't know anything about that stuff. I never heard anything about that stuff. I never done anything like that. I mean, granted, like I told you, I know a lot of weird stuff's happened to me from when I was a kid. And then, like, after he passed away and I saw him, then I would see, like, there's so many things I could tell you about things I've seen over the years. But I never really questioned it, because I just thought it was something everybody saw. And then when I would tell people about it, they thought, "Oh, you're weird," I'm like, "Okay, whatever." So I just stopped telling people.
So in this, I guess what I'd like to convey is that this timeline was similar. Like your parents still lived in the same house. He lived in a different house.
He was alive.
He was alive.
Yeah.
And, so in this timeline, he didn't die. But in this timeline,
he was separated.
He's separated with his wife and lived across the street from your parents.
Yeah. And it was awesome because, but he'd still hit his head. So my brother had a concussion and he had still hit his head. So he was still, not out of the woods yet, but he was alive and he was over at this other house. So it was so weird that it was such a wonderful gift from God because that told me everything I need to know. Yes, of course, I'll see him again. We have many different timelines going on at once. If you've ever seen Harry Potter, you're totally going to understand this because it's the only way I can explain it to you. If you think of your soul being split several times, but not in a bad way because you killed somebody or whatever.
No, we're not talking about Voldemort. We're talking about Hermione with the time turner, right?
No, I wasn't talking about. I'm talking about the Horcrux.
Oh, okay.
Talking about. No, I mean you could change things in time, yes, but that's a whole different.
You're not going there yet. Okay.
So what I'm saying is that when we're born, and when like what Earl was saying, that the 400 something for frames per second or whatever he was saying. And sorry, I'm not scientist.
That's fine.
Okay. I know what you were saying, but I can't remember. And how he was saying how it's possible for something to split off. That's what I was shown. I was shown that sort of once a decision, maybe a major decision happens, maybe so when he died in this timeline that I'm in now, that we are in now, that was a major thing that happened. So that's where the timeline ends here. But in another timeline, he's still on. He's still good. And maybe maybe several times, he and I were talking about this before. I have so many weird, memories that other people don't have, of me, that swear they don't remember any of the stuff. They were never there. They had never experienced this. I have this whole story about me getting my ears pierced when I was 6 years old. My parents say never happened. And what really pisses me off about it is I remember everything. I'm like a friggin' elephant. I remember all of it. But they don't remember any of it. Now, that was a very significant event. I know it's just your ears pierced, but it was when I was 6. I mean, this is a big deal for me. My dad just swears. I mean, seriously, my dad's not a liar, but my dad's swearing that, it did not happen the way it did. I'm like, yes, it did.
I mean, years off.
I mean, 16.
Yeah.
He said I got done with 16. I wasn't 16. I was 6. So, anyway, he's saying all this stuff, and it makes me wonder. In the timeline that he remembers, was I 16? Because in this timeline here, I was 6. So, here's the other thing. I believe this is what happens. Well, I know this is what happens. I was also shown this. So, wrap this one around your head. When you die in a timeline, that part of your soul that dies goes to another existing timeline. Okay? So, you're still alive. You don't ever die. You're immortal. Okay? So our souls they go on. So I would imagine that that's when you're fully complete. When your soul, all of your soul is intact in one spot. Now I imagine I was trying to talk to him about it. It's if you were an enlightened being like Buddha or something. There was this guy I saw on TikTok the other day. He was super freaking old, and he was this Buddhist guy. He was a Tibetan monk, and he makes TikTok videos and he heals people and everything, which is freaking awesome. And he's super old. I mean, I don't even know how old this guy is. He's old.
I saw
And
an estimate. They were saying 160, but he could be 300 for all we know.
I mean, it's crazy. You have to see this guy. So anyhow, when you start going down this whole rabbit hole of ascension, you start learning all these things. You know how to better take care of your body. You know the right foods to eat, and you're getting through the ascension. Now you can say, "Oh, maybe it doesn't look like I know what foods to eat yet," and yeah, but I'm still going through it. Okay? don't be bothering me.
Me too.
Leave me alone. Okay? So, so you start learning all these things, like I don't know. 4 years ago, I stopped taking pills. I was popping pills like crazy. I mean, I wasn't like a addict or anything. But I mean,
well, for your back pain, you're taking like way over 800 milligrams of ibuprofen.
I was taking like 8 ibuprofen a day, and I mean, it was really bad. But I was doing that, and I was doing all this like, I mean, I was doing a lot of stuff. So I stopped. I just stopped. I don't need it. I don't get sick. I never really did get sick that much, but I don't even get sick. I don't get sick at all. I don't even get headaches. I get nothing. I'll get like ascension headaches, but shit, everybody gets those. Those are terrible. But
so
yeah, it's like
before we get too far in, I wanted to bring up the Mandela effect, which is kind of what we're talking about with your earrings.
Did I mention that?
No.
Oh, that's where I was getting at.
So I thought that's where you were going.
It was.
So if you guys don't know what the Mandela effect is,
it's very interesting.
A certain number of people that remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison, and then a certain number of people remembering him, getting out of prison. So they call it the Mandela effect because we have these memories of events happening different ways.
Yeah, and people will swear upon swear that they saw him die here, and other people swear that it happened here. And so there's a lot of things like that. So this is really cool because if you're like around our age, you're totally going to know this one, okay? And if you don't, then you're going to be like, what the heck? So, for one, there's a nickel, okay? So there's a nickel with Jefferson on it, right? Jefferson's always on the nickel, right? So you have to look at the nickel. In one thing, he's facing this way, but he's got a ponytail. And another one, he does not have a ponytail. It's so bizarre. So that's one you probably wouldn't know. But it's really cool to look at the pictures of it because people are like, no, I always remember it this way. Nope, they were both ways. But they weren't really both ways. Only certain people remember it this way, and they swear that they've never seen this other coin. So here's an even cooler one. So if you watch Star Wars, and I'm sure you have, or even if you hate it and you think it's stupid, everybody knows the famous line, Luke, I am your father, right? No. There is actually a Mandela effect that does not say that. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah. He didn't say Luke. He just said, no, I am your father.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. No, I am your father.
So,
we're like, nah.
We had this because I remembered Darth Vader saying, Luke, I am your father. And he's like, but actually it was, no, I am your father. And there's two camps.
So they have videos on this, and people like, no, that didn't happen. And I said, because I talked to him, I thought it was the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm like, hey, Star Wars, right? What's the guy say? He says, Luke, I am your father, right? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, no, I didn't. He said, no, I am your father. He goes, no, it's Luke. I said, I know. I know. I heard the same thing. But you go on YouTube and you can find it and actually type in, no, I am your father, or Luke, I am your father, Mandela effect, and you'll see it. It's insane.
So, hey, there's a
peanut butter thing, too.
Well, there's a channel I like called Rise TV. It used to be Edge of Wonder. And the guy Ben on there, Ben and Rob run that website. But Ben has a whole group of videos about different Mandela effects, which are really cool. So you should check that out.
My theory is this. After having the visitation and going in that other Danielle, my theory is Mandela effect is just people dying in one timeline or traveling in one and going on to another. And so that's what I see. And so I think it's like the coolest thing. God's amazing, isn't he? I mean, this is so bizarre as shit,
So-
right?
So I used to watch Aaron Doherty a lot. He's
Yeah.
another wake up truther guy.
And that other guy you watch, Phil.
Yeah.
Right?
And so Aaron Doherty told a story of he was driving on the freeway and there was a truck that, slid over into his lane, and like instantly he was about to get smashed by the truck, and then he was 20 feet behind the truck. Right?
Yeah. My mom actually had one too.
Did she?
Yeah.
So he was saying he totally knows that he was like in one timeline he was crushed and his consciousness just shifted into one where he was 20 feet behind the truck. Right?
Yeah. So he actually knows that happened. Now, see, my mom, she said that she was driving on the highway, or she was just getting ready to get onto the highway. And as she was getting ready to merge on, the next thing she knows, she's all the way back and she's not anywhere close to where she was.
Yeah.
And because I was kind of talking to her about this weird thing that happened to me. Earl and I were driving. My niece had a football game. We went to go see her. She was in band, and we went to go see her play. And then on our way home,
Oh yeah, I remember.
I'm driving because he was too tired. I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were sitting at a stoplight.
We were sitting at a stoplight, and the stoplight had turned green, and it had turned green, and I knew it was green, and I waited because I heard, "Don't go," and so I sat there.
So I'm watching this light green, and she gets kind of irritated when I backseat drive or passenger seat drive.
He does that a lot.
So I waited and waited until finally I was like, "All right, honey, it's green."
He said, "Are you gonna go?" I said, "Do you want to die?" And he goes, "What?" And all of a sudden, vroom, this big semi truck just
laden down dump truck plows through the red light coming the other way. We would have totally been plowed over.
Yeah.
Whew.
And he goes,
I was like, never mind.
I
Do
go,
what you want.
you want to die? And he goes, and like, no sooner does that truck come just going flying through, and he goes, what the hell? I was like, yeah, I pay attention. So my intuition said, don't do it. I didn't do it.
Could have been in, another timeline. That was it. That was it for that one.
Yeah, could have been.
So.
And so, I mean, there's been several things like that. And if you think about it, you might have had things that have happened. I know when I was a kid, I had these dreams. And there was one, I swear, I went to the store, I got this outfit, I went shopping, went out to eat. Next morning, I get up, I'm in bed, I get up, and I'm looking everywhere for this outfit. I cannot find it. It's pissing me off because, I want to look good when I go to school. So I'm looking and looking and looking, and I can't find it, and I can't find it anywhere. I'm looking in my closet. I look under my bed. I don't know why it'd be there, but I was looking. And I go out and talk to my mom, and I asked her about it, and she's like, we didn't go anywhere. I'm telling you, I don't know if it was a dream. I mean, it could have been lucid dreaming at the time. It really could have, but I could have been in a different timeline. The way I felt the day that I was with my brother was sort of like that, if I can go back, and I can remember things pretty vividly.
Ooh, what about when you want to
run
up the steps?
This is really weird. So that was the first time that happened. And I never, with my brother. That was the first time that happened. So it's about, I don't know, a year later or something. Was I by myself or?
I think so, because you told me about it later. I can't remember.
The kids might have been there. Woo! Yeah, I think you might have been outside. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I remember being at the bottom of the steps and I had to get something. I was probably going upstairs to get my swimming suit or something because we have a hot tub outside. And I remember running up the steps and I went right into I was walking right around. So you go up these steps and there's a door here to the right at the top. And then that's our bedroom. There's bathroom, bedroom, hallway. And so I get up to the top, I turn to go to the bedroom, and I look, and there sitting on the bed is me. I'm sitting on the bed.
So you saw yourself
I saw myself
sitting on the bed looking at you.
Yeah, and I was looking right at me, and I was just staring at me.
What did the other you do
We just like looked at each other and I went, okay. I turned around. I went back downstairs. It's so stupid. I didn't do anything. And all I could think of is, because I really like Harry Potter. I thought, oh shit. Hermione's not supposed to see herself. So I was like, you better turn back. So I went back down the stairs. And, I told him, I was like, you are not going to believe what I just saw at the top of the steps. He's like, what? I was like, myself. I was sitting on the bed. He's like, what? I was like, yeah, I was just sitting there. I don't know what I was doing. That was it.
So, if you remember when we first moved in this house, I had to do a lot of electrical work.
Yeah.
And
oh God,
I was changing the breaker box, one of the things in the breaker box, and I had to lift it up just a little bit more to get the screw to mount the box, and dumbass me had the screwdriver still in my hand as I was lifting the box, and I just tilted a little bit, and the screwdriver connected to the box plates, and there was a huge flash, and this boom, just explosion, just a big light flash.
It was big.
I felt the hairs of my head stand up, and the lights went out, so it was completely pitch black in the basement.
I yelled out, "Are you okay?"
So between the time that flash went off and she yelled okay, I had stars in my eyes or whatever. But I was thinking, oh my God, did I just die? Because it startled me that much. And at the time, I was just thinking that I was startled or whatever. Yeah. Well, I told this story to my spiritual friend, and she was like, oh yeah, you probably did die, and they just, put you back, whatever. So that could have been a timeline where I fried myself in the breaker box. But
and he's done this several times,
that
too.
wasn't my highest timeline, so I kept going.
Well, yeah, and I do believe, because he and I were talking about this, like, this is the highest timeline that we're in, because we're in this whole ascension thing. We're in this great awakening. So we're on an ascension timeline, and all the timelines are going to fold down upon themselves.
So that was the other point. And you get shown that everything was collapsing into this timeline.
Yeah. So I also asked, this is a while ago, I asked if I would see my brother again, because I have this obsession with seeing my brother again. And he said yes. And I said, well, I know him when I see him. And he said yes. And then he showed me timeline. They're all collapsing. And I wondered if what would happen is once all the timelines collapse into the highest one, if, say, you were still alive in some other timeline, but you're just not here in this one, but all the timelines collapse into one timeline, would we all still be alive at the end timeline? Which to me, if we're bringing heaven to earth, okay, and God is going to raise the dead in Christ, and he's going to basically shut, this is heaven, wouldn't we all see each other? And I got the answer, yes.
All right.
So that was pretty cool. So no matter what beliefs you have, that's what I got. So I was like, okay. So anyhow, I have, with the whole timelines and dimensions thing, so we were going to talk about something else that happened during the week. So I have an obsession with reading the Bible and different books of the Bible, because something in me knows I'm missing this whole big chunk of what's going to happen, right? And I want to know, it's driving me crazy. And I think I have to, okay? And so I've been reading all the different books that were taken out of the Bible, sort of the banned books of the Bible, right? And right now I'm reading Enoch, and I'm also reading Adam and Eve. And so the Adam and Eve books are really interesting. I mean, it's pretty nuts. And Enoch is too. So months ago, I got where I came from, the first time that I incarnated down here. So if you don't believe in reincarnation, you really need to look some information up. And I'm not telling you to believe in reincarnation. I'm saying that I know that it exists for myself, at least. Right. So, the best part about this whole awakening ascension is that if you just, sorry, I'm like having issues.
I've been hiccuping.
Okay, I have sorry, I'm really embarrassed. I have like acid reflux happening, and I feel like I'm gonna burp, but I'm keeping it down. All right, I let one out, and I felt, ooh,
yeah, we're keeping it real around.
Sorry,
here. We're very grounded.
Seriously, what am I gonna do? So anyhow, let me go back to where I was. Oh, I've been reading these books, the Bible. So about, I don't know, a year ago, probably. It's probably been about a year. No, I think it was in October. It doesn't matter. Earl and I run the hot tub because I get all my information in there. And
very energetic, grounding experience.
Yeah, I'm a Scorpio, water sign. He's a Pisces. So anyway, I was in there, and all of a sudden I got this feeling like, okay. And then I hear when I was like first here. And so I hear like Anunnaki. I don't like to say too much about it because I'm a little sensitive. So anyway, so if anybody knows what that is, so the Watchers were the group of angels that were here, that were entrusted to watch over the humans, to keep them safe or make sure they're doing stuff. I don't know, something like that. And anyhow, those people were angels, okay? And they decided that they were going to, there was like a head guy, Azizel, I think is what his name is. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but anyway.
Give me the general gist of this.
He's basically like, hey, you sexy? I'm going to get with you. Gets with a human. They have babies. And that is not good. They did not want people to do that. So, this is where the whole giants come in and everything. This is the fallen angels. They're falling from grace.
Right. So the Anunnaki were supposed to look out, watch.
No, the Anunnaki are the children of the fallen angels.
Okay.
So they're the demigods, and that's what they called them at the time because they were half human, half angel. So it's this whole thing. Anyway, you need to read it. It is really deep shit. And so anyway, when I was like, my mind was completely blown. I was like, oh my God. So anyhow, as I'm reading it out loud to Earl goes, oh my gosh. And right when he says, oh my gosh, it's like, I got it too. You know, I mean, I'm just a little slower on the uptake. And so
this was the paragraph in Enoch, right?
Yeah.
You're reading.
I don't know if I have it. I think I left it at the other house.
Okay.
I did.
But basically, you were saying that the fallen angels getting with humans, so our souls are connected to God, but when they fell and got with the humans, they created souls that were tied to the earth and could not ascend past that point. They didn't have the connection to higher source. They were stuck here.
They're stuck. So it created the fourth dimension.
The fourth dimension.
It's insane. So it created the astral realm. Okay? So if you know anything about the astral realm, this is like a massive aha moment for us.
This is a huge epiphany.
We're like, holy shit. So anyway, and all of a sudden, like, we had to read it several times just to make sure, we were like telling bad information. But it feels right. Everything was good. And so anyway, that's what created the astral. That's what their souls are. That's why people can talk to the dead. That's who they're talking to. They're talking to this astral realm.
So this astral realm, the third dimension, fourth dimension astral realm is where...
It's a frequency. Okay? You need to know that. So that's what a frequency is.
Souls can go there after they die, and if they can't get further or don't know how to get any further, they can come back down, right, and reincarnate. But sometimes they get stuck there. Well, there's some beings that inhabit that aren't necessarily good entities. They're lower vibrational entities. That's where the demonic realm hangs out, right? So that's where if a soul is really wounded, they can't get any further, they hang out there. So
kind of,
when people tap into this astral realm and they're talking to spirits, it could be nasty things.
So when you get on the Ouija board, okay, that's who you're talking to. That's what you're doing. You're talking to souls that have never grown and learned the full lesson of while they were here. And not only that, but it's like, so you're tapping into like fallen angels, the people that fell from grace, and they never got the grace of God to rise them up. Okay, so I thought it was really interesting because somebody we know would always have these gifts given to her. She would do meditation. She's always getting these gifts. She's always having wonderful things are always happening. She's talking to all these ascended masters, blah, 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 blah. And it was always so crazy. It's like, it would almost sound like, some of it would sound pretty good. And then it would be like, I got to give you the example. So, you could do the one where you were talking about, like, they made her do stuff over and over and over again.
So these faker spirits, we'll call them, can come and appear to people who have spiritual connections and appear to be really good spirits. And there's several people that have, like, Jesus come to them, but it's faker spirit pretending. Okay, and then they kind of hook you in to do stuff. Anyway, they give you tasks to do, like little rituals and things.
If anybody ever wants you to do a ritual, that's not done. You don't do rituals.
It could be as simple as so in this particular case, this woman was told to, like, hold her breath a certain amount of time, do certain poses and things like that. Now this is difficult because there are some yoga masters that say they were taught by, the higher to unlock all these, yoga secrets. But in this case, was told to, like, hold your breath for so long, and then they would, like,
almost like you're gonna pass out.
Present, like, spiritual gifts, like, you earned this crown for doing this, and then you feel like this euphoria, but it was more like a dopamine hit.
You're gonna get a sword. You're gonna get a crown. You're gonna.
So when they flatter you and say, when they use flattery and try to stroke your ego, give you gifts and tell you that you're like the chosen one, or you're going to be this, really special, like you're the one. Okay. And they'll usually name drop some really famous people that you once were in a previous life. And this is a really fine line. This is where you really have to use your discernment, because there are people that are famous people that are reincarnated, right? So you gotta be careful.
Well, I have a hard time with the whole premise of I couldn't. I mean, honestly, I told him before. I was like, good girl, as if I was Queen Sheba.
Well, that's the whole point.
It doesn't matter. I'm not Queen Sheba now. I'm Danielle.
It doesn't matter what you were in the past.
Right.
Just like that table doesn't work in the present. Your past life doesn't work in the present either. You're
trying to shed
present,
it. You're
right?
trying to let it go.
So you shed your ego to move on. And anyways, so
back it's a real stroke to an ego too, though.
It is.
Whenever they say, "Oh, you're this person," and then they get like obsessed with the fact that they're this famous person, and then it's like it goes completely to their head too. So that should be somewhat of a clue to let you know that that's something that's going on, and it's not the right thing.
So anyway, we got this fourth dimension with bad things and some good things that haven't quite got to the fifth. So the fifth dimension is Christ consciousness, where you connect with the collective consciousness of true love and all that. To get to the fifth, your consciousness has to pass through this level of the fourth that's stuck here, right? And so it makes me think of that Bible verse where they say, "Lo, as I walk through the valley of death, I fear no evil," right? For your soul to get through to the higher, to get with Jesus Christ consciousness, you have to pass through this valley, this veil,
the dark night
of death, in order to ascend past that in consciousness, right?
The dark night of the soul.
The dark night. So it's all metaphor, I think, for this ascension to free this fourth dimension. That's where I wanted to go with this, was that the fourth dimension was created when these fallen angels um, intermingled with the humans and created um, a spiritual level that was tied
It's tying
down
us
here.
to an earthly realm
Right.
instead of.
So I really feel like this ascension partly is freeing everything that's stuck and showing them how to connect to source, to God, to the light. And this came about not only from what we heard about Enoch, but in other videos, this woman was talking about how she removes entities from people. And she says she gets the, like, in certain people, they have tons of entities, but there's like usually one big one that that controls the other minions around, right? So she gets hold of the biggest one and surrounds it with this light rope or something, right? This is how she did it. And then she tells the demon, which is a dark, lower vibrational entity, how to connect to source. And once he's connected and sees the light, then he automatically becomes like a light being, and the understanding floods into him. Okay, and he turns light, and then it's just like one of those pyramids. Once he turns, all his minions turn to light.
Everything I need.
And they go back up to source and leave the earthly body.
Nice.
So
it's beautiful.
Like when we do the clearing prayers that we learned from James Gilliland and Isetti, we don't, battle the demons into the ground with the cross and send them to hell. We don't. What we do is say, you are healed, forgiven, lifted, and enlightened, filled with the Christ love and the Christ light, and ask Jesus to come take you to your perfect place, wherever that is. And I guess in this lady's technique, she actually helps them connect to source and shows them the light. So I'm really feeling like between what we got with Enoch and what this lady said and the clearings that we've learned to do, this fourth dimension, I think, we're going to connect this whole fourth dimension with source and clear out the whole thing. That's what I think.
Well, that's amazing. So I act like that. It's good. So go on.
So light workers, light warriors.
Woo! So I was thinking about I was reading this chapter on Adam and Eve. So Adam and Eve chapter is absolutely nuts. Earl was so pissed off he couldn't handle it.
Big time.
He's been triggered all weekend. Okay, folks. My God.
I had a lot of work to do this week.
I got triggered for something, and I told you I was like, I gotta work on that. What was it? Oh, it was about high school. Ugh.
Yeah, there's a lot of work for everybody.
I remember what it was. So I told you I'd have to try to work through a block. So yeah, remember it was yesterday. We were at the Mexican restaurant.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I said, "Ooh, we gotta do that."
I don't know. Let's get back to it.
Anyway,
Adam and Eve.
Well, it had to do with it. That's what I'm saying. So anyway, Adam and Eve. So when they get kicked out of the garden, boy, Earl was so mad.
So she read me. So this is the.
So he's really pissed.
So this is what's the book called? Adam and Eve.
There's like 3 books.
Chronicles
There's 3 books of Adam and Eve. Okay, they're leaving the garden. They're in the friggin' garden.
So
I'm only on the front part of the garden.
So it's one of the books that they didn't put in the canonical Bible, right?
And I'm gonna tell you what, it's really fascinating. But he was mad. I don't know. I get it. But he was mad. So basically, they get kicked out, and God doesn't have any kind of mercy on them. He does, but not the kind of mercy that Earl wanted, apparently. So God kicks them out and moves them completely away from where the opening of the garden was. For one, he didn't want them to smell how sweet the garden smelled. He didn't want them to drink from the water of life that came from the beautiful tree. He didn't want them to, see the animals or anything to do with it. So he moves them to this whole other area underneath the tree in this cave, this dark cave. There's no light. It's just awful. And they basically try to kill themselves several times. I mean, they do. And every time, God brings them back. So...
and said, "No, you can't go out like that. Sorry."
So he's getting so pissed off.
So he kicks him out of the garden and puts him in this cave with no light whatsoever, like pitch black.
They don't deserve light.
It said they couldn't even
they couldn't see each
this
other.
close. They couldn't see each other. There was no light whatsoever. Right.
So it said that, okay, and this is how I explained it to him. The way I understood it was like, okay, you're in the Garden of Eden. You're there for hundreds of years, okay? Before this even happens. You know not to go over to that damn tree, and you went over anyway. There's a sign that says, don't go over to that damn tree. Don't touch the tree. Don't eat the apple. Don't even think about eating the apple. And those dumbasses ate the apple. That's exactly what happened.
So I'll tell you why I was triggered after.
So wait a minute. So, obviously I'm summarizing. Don't even, just read it for yourself, because you're like, this girl doesn't know what you're talking about. So anyhow, he's mad. So I said, they had all these signs to not do it, and they did it anyway. And I was like, we've all done it. I mean, we've all not listened. We've all did a bunch of shit we didn't like, and we all beg, oh, please forgive us, And I was telling him that the reason why it makes so much sense to me is because in the beginning, there was, God made Adam. Now, there were other people there, okay? If you don't believe me, it's there. So, but Adam had the Spirit of God within him, that consciousness, that Christ consciousness sort of thing going on, right? This loving...
Breathe the breath of God into Adam.
Yes.
That differentiated him from the others.
Yes, I'm getting there. So anyway, if you think of the other, because somebody says, well, what about cavemen? I'm like, well, they didn't have that, okay? But Adam did. That's what made him different. And God said, every day he said, and it was good, and then it wasn't good, because he needs to have a companion. He asked for a companion. He went out and looked for a companion, couldn't find one that was good for him, because they didn't have what Adam had. So God made Eve from Adam. Beautiful, right? All right. Now we have these two lovely beings here. So if you think of Kevin Bacon.
Oh, God.
6 degrees of separation, right? We only have one here, okay? So here's God. Here's Adam. All right. We only have 3 people, right? Well, 2 people and God. That's the Trinity, right? All right. You got me. You following? So I believe he doesn't, but it doesn't matter. I don't. So we have, the way I see it is the separation between man and God. There wasn't. I mean, it was like, boom, we're right there. Imagine you've created this whole thing, and you finally got people on it that you're willing to share it with, that have the spirit of you, and then they don't listen. You'll be pretty pissed. So, yeah, it might sound pretty harsh, but that's what he did. So then in Genesis, mind you, he talks about the creation, and then knowing already from the very beginning when he's going to come, down to the day, is explained in Genesis. So everybody's like, oh, no, it isn't. It is. It's in there. He even tells Adam. Okay? So what they do leave out is they leave out these chapters of Adam and Eve being in the garden. And God talking to Adam and Eve. And God told him, Adam's like, I'm sorry, I should have done this. It was bad. And she's like, I'm bad too. And then he's like, well, don't worry, because in 5,000 years or whatever, 2,000 years or whatever the heck it was, I'm going to come over and I'm going to die too. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to give my blood for everybody, and everybody's going to be good. It's going to be beautiful. And Adam's like, well, that sucks. Can't you just help me now? And he's like, no, but in 5,000 years, I'm coming. I'm going to do it. And Adam's like, well, can you give me a little present? Well, God ends up giving him a present. And that's the other thing, too, they never mention. And then Anyhow, it all ties in with Jesus. But now, why Earl's bad? Go ahead.
Okay, so we have free will given by God, and the reason that Eve got the apple was because she was manipulated into doing it. Okay, so it was like her free will was attacked by some other entity that twisted everything around, making it seem like it's good, just like a lot of things going on right now.
But
right?
they were told not to go there.
Okay.
They did
So-
it anyway.
They ate the apple. God punished them by putting them down in this cave. You know, after they successfully apparently killed themselves several times
Yeah.
and was brought back.
Actually.
They were locked in this cave with no light of God anywhere, right? And just in this cave, scared to death, right? So then there was another section where Satan came to the mouth of the cave.
So Adam and Eve are begging and begging and begging God, and they've done this several times and asked for all kinds of stuff and blah, 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 right? So then they're in the cave, and then they look out and they see an angel of light, but the angel of light will not come into the cave. And they're looking at this angel, and he's all bright, looks beautiful, and all that jazz. And they start to pray. So they're learning discernment, right? So something's odd about this angel because the angel won't come into the cave. Now, any other time, the angels have appeared to them. They all came up to them, or they heard the voice of God, and it was immediate. And so the next thing you know, they ask God, "Hey, there's a angel on. There's somebody out here, and it's they're out here, and are they bad? I don't understand." And then all of a sudden, another angel appears, but inside the cave, and said, "No, that's Satan. Do not,
So they're in this cave, completely shut off
Yeah.
from darkness. They're begging and begging and begging God to show up, and he doesn't. You know, he just leaves them there, right? And then,
Well, there's an angel there."
just wait a second.
He gets
At this
so mad about
moment,
it.
they're begging and begging and begging, and God doesn't show up. He leaves them in complete darkness, scared to death, right?
Mm.
And all of a sudden, they see light, and it's Satan outside the cave, right? And he's casting light into it. So
They were singing or
so-
something, yeah.
he's offering this solution to these people's problems, right? I'm going to turn this around. Don't worry about it. So he's offering this solution from the edge of the cave. And all they have to do is just like turn, and now they can see what's
Uh-huh.
going on. They can find their way out of the cave. It's pretty much an easy out, right? All you got to do is just go over there. So it was really making me mad because I hate being tricked, and Satan tricked them in the first place, right? And then God's punishment was horrendous, just like leaving them in the dark, just abandoning. I was like, why? That makes me so angry, just abandoning these two.
So
right?
he didn't
It's-
really
wait a second.
abandon them, though, because every time they prayed, God answered
No,
them.
not every time. He left them alone for a while. He left them alone, scared in that darkness for a long while. It was like half the night, right? And then when the solution appeared, they prayed again just to double check. And that's when the other angel came down and told them, "Hey, that's Satan. You can't go to that light. You got to go to the other light. You got to wait for God's light. You can't go to the easy light," right? And that made me mad because it seems really unfair. So as I process this through the next few days, I've realized why I was so triggered in the first place, because I am easily, or was easily manipulated, right? And so to me, it's like I felt innocent in that manipulation. Like, oh, they, coerced me or manipulated me, or, it really wasn't my fault, right? So here I'm listening to this story thinking, dude, this is not their fault. They were manipulated by something else. Like, that should be punished, not these two, right? So it felt really unfair to me, and I was like getting really angry.
Yeah.
And then the punishment of being put in the dark, and kids in the dark, I'll just say, we know someone that's scared of the dark, and for me to witness somebody being completely terrified makes me want to flip on a light or offer some kind of light to help them, right? You just don't leave somebody terrified in the dark. So that was horrible. And then not only were these two terrified in the dark, but they weren't even allowed to flip on a light switch that was offered to them or take a torch that was offered to them, right? Not allowed to do that. So you can't even you can't even accept solutions that are offered to you unless they're the right solutions, right? And then it's like, well, how are you supposed to know that? Well, the whole point of this whole stupid story for me was that if you're able to be manipulated, then that's your fault, because you haven't gone through the process of learning discernment. And the only way to learn discernment is to go through the stupid dark night of the soul and make the right decisions, even with the manipulation all around you. And you can't take the easy way out. You can't take the easy solutions when you know they're wrong, right? And how do you know they're wrong? Because divine guidance tells you that they're wrong, right? So you can't take the easy way out if it's wrong. You can't blame it others, even though you were manipulated, because you really should have had your discernment. And so you cannot handle the gifts of God without going through the process of understanding your own discernment.
Oh my God, you got it. Aww.
So it still makes me mad, but I understand.
So I got it, but that's because I had already gone through that mess.
Well, I mean, that's one of my big things, though, is like soul growth is like standing up for myself and not being led astray by manipulation, because I was very naive and very not manipulative, but I was very easily manipulated when I was younger, right? And I always want to like people please, so I would do things to keep people happy all the time. It led to some really bad decisions. So God's not going to hand you the keys to the kingdom of heaven if you're making all these dumb decisions because someone told you to, or you want to make somebody happy or whatever. So
good job. Hey, just for third luck. So
awakening sucks.
Yeah, it really sucks. It's really good though. Really good. So this whole process, you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, these guys. But this whole process takes quite a long time if you want it to. Okay, so if you do not want it to, there are ways to speed it up, and that is the easiest way is to just accept what's happening. And then
let your resistance down.
That's really hard for Earl. So that's the hardest one, I think, for you.
Yeah.
Because he knows a lot of the times what the problem is, but he just gets pissed off and doesn't want to do it. So I wasn't like that, because as soon as I realized what the problem is, I'm like, I'm going after it right now. It was like,
so it's interesting. So I had, just like that stupid table story, I had resistance to that. Yeah. And then when I finally realized what was happening, after, way too long of arguing against it, it was like, oh, that's what's happening. But the good thing is, once you realize it, you can turn that around real quick.
When'd you figure it out?
Like right before we took it out. Right? So
No, not the table. The part with the Adam and Eve story.
Oh, it was a couple days later. I didn't say anything.
I know, you little shit. So Earl does that too. Okay, so
part of this awesome relationship is that so she could read that and trigger the hell out of me. Well, like we said about triggers
Yeah.
and blocks and things like that, when you are triggered, it's something within, right?
I kept
Something
going
within.
after it too.
Yeah.
And I knew it was getting mad, and I kept doing it on purpose.
It's like, why
But
would I do that?
he's like, I go, oh, I go, you're the one that's getting bothered by it. And he gets so mad. I was like, well, it makes sense to me. Oh, you're so mad. But he does the same thing to me. Like, he's really annoying with me, too, whenever
whatever
I have.
block that was that you came up with, I don't remember it now, but you remember?
So, I mean, it's there.
Yeah, we'll have to come
It's
back
always
to
the
it.
same thing with me. Okay, mine's always the same thing, too. So, Earl and I both have a hero complex. So, we like to save people. It's like, we really want to help people. So, mine has always been like all through high school, I would drop everything to help somebody else. It did not matter what I was doing. I could have been getting married that day, and if somebody needed help, I would have done both. But I would have gone and helped and hurried back to the wedding without like getting my hair done, my nails done. I would have done that, like to help somebody. So that's what it was about, something about that. Because I was like, oh, it makes me mad. Because I remember thinking about it.
So, like a big one
I do that a lot.
Like putting yourself out there to help somebody with an expectation of at least a thank you. And then when
I've given up the fact that I'm ever going to get thanks from people that have helped.
So then when someone doesn't even offer that, it's like, oh, I can't believe that. Well, that can tie up into an issue because you're projecting that expectation on them and how they should react to your help.
It was about the situation here. And it also happened to me with certain things in high school. And I think it was the jail thing too, or something with her. Because it was all I was I'm having then, and it was about here, but I can't remember what the heck it was.
I don't know.
Oh, it's too bad. I can't remember. I know it's gonna come right back up. That's the best part about a block. It loops back around. So anyway, I finally got another one. So I was like, yay, I'll just dig it out. And I forgot. I just got done telling him, I said, oh, remember, I won't dig it out till Wednesday because, I'll do it on here. But, no, the best thing about it is with him, realizing it, the quickest way to get through it is honestly just doing it right when it happens. Even if it's a really stupid time when it happens, really inopportune. Just excuse yourself and go into the bathroom,
I can't do it that quick. I usually have to let my anger stew and then kind of just get down to a simmer. Mm-hmm. And then I can kind of see through it.
I don't have to do that because I'm already pissed. If it's come up to the surface, I can be pissed off in 1 second. So, just if I could just imagine myself, how mad I am, I'll get there. But, and the other thing, too, about blocks, the further that you get along with this ascension process, the blocks are really stupid, but some of them might be really hard to get through, but it's as soon as you get through it, you're done. And you feel a million times better, what Earl was saying. It's almost it's the dumbest thing ever. And like he was saying about the stupid table. I mean, it's just a fucking table.
Yeah.
But that's just how these.
Why was I so attached? It's so dumb.
Yeah, and the story, the Adam and Eve story, he was so mad. I remember we were at breakfast when we were talking about it. He was so mad, and I'm like, whoa. I didn't want to ruin the whole weekend, but I wanted him to get it out because I know how it is whenever it's stuck in there, and then because it's going to loop back around, it might loop around in another way. Somebody else will try to take advantage of him. Then he's got to see it. It's just let it go. And that's how this stuff works. It just keeps coming back. It's like the stupid boomerang. And, you don't want that. You don't want that in you. You don't want that toxic stuff. You want to be able to be happy and sit outside in the sun and just enjoy yourself and just be free of all that crap, And that's what we're here for. That's what, we're doing. That's what we're to help people with. We want to help people with their ascension process and their questions because we have gone through a lot of crap, especially as a husband and wife team that we've been, we're a good team. We've always been a really good team. And so we work really well together. So we decided that that's what, we were going to do. But helping couples is like a big deal because if you're like us, it was really, really hard, because we had kids. We didn't want to yell at each other. We didn't want to fight, but it's almost impossible not to because everything that you do as a married couple, you usually do it together or have them in mind, when you're doing that. So it's really hard.
Well, especially when you're really digging out some of the heavy blocks and the heavy triggers. Almost everything out of her mouth was making me mad, which then we realized that we call them triggers now because it's something to work on, but it was like it was a lot. It's like, oh my gosh, constantly being triggered.
Yeah.
Like for months on end.
Well, because when I was going through mine, so I sort of went through mine. Well, we did a little bit together, okay? Like the end of mine was like sort of like almost the middle of yours.
Yeah, it kind of crossed over a little bit. And not to say we're done by any means.
No.
Over the hump, I would say.
We're over the hump. I hope so. Shoot somebody. But he had he kind of refused to do his.
Yeah, well, to begin with, I didn't really believe any of this stuff to start off with, so it was really tough.
Yeah. What's tough is when you're going through an ascension and your partner doesn't believe and thinks you're nuts. So that's fun. But it's not that big of a deal. So if you have gone through that, you need to get over it because it's odd for them. It's hard for them. And it's hard for people to understand that we're even doing anything in the first place. But there does come a time when there's no turning back. And I told him this because it was actually really funny. I go, there comes a time when you can't deny it anymore. And you're going to get there. And you won't be able to deny it. And I was like, And I was like, because, I said, you can deny it all you want. It's still there. And I said, but there will be a time when you go to deny it and you feel like an ass. And I said, it's going to happen to you. Oh. And he goes, I can't deny it. I was like, yeah, you can't deny it. And then you can't go, I told you so, because then you're an ass. But, well, you could, but, you just be an ass.
And you develop other blocks to get out.
Then you got another block. But, that's the thing. When you, usually it's one person going through it first. And then it's better that way, honestly, to go through it a little bit beforehand.
Well, because, as you gain understanding, the forgiveness comes easier. Of the forgiveness and gratefulness that you need to get through these blocks, I feel comes easier.
Comes a lot easier because
you gain understanding.
Because you realize that you're not perfect, you want them to forgive you too.
Yeah.
So it's really a lot easier. But it's like, but it is. It's really awesome whenever you start to get like past the big hump, the big hurdle, because it is a big relief. And like I said, I started going through my stuff. It was pretty early. Well, 4 years ago, I was going through before with my brother. I started going through little things that I did because I remember during that time, and I was like sort of denying myself on who I was. That was a big thing because I was seeing fourth dimensional entities. I was seeing, hearing things like all the time. I would hear like bad stuff. I'd hear good stuff too, but I heard bad stuff, and I knew it was bad, and I knew when it was good. I have really good discernment, and I got really sort of tortured there for a little bit because I was searching for my brother constantly, and I wasn't like living in the present. I was like constantly living in the past. So I started going through that, and then I went through like denying who I was. So I wouldn't tell anybody about who I was, about anything I saw and the stuff I see. I just kind of like dumb it down a little bit. And then I started like, I was all over the damn place. And then it was just like, finally I was like, you know what? I see all this stuff. I started telling people that I was crazy.
It's interesting. Like that's just like dropping the resistance to it, right? That's one of the things you just like accept that this is happening to you, right?
Well,
And,
I saw it, and I Earl knows this because over the years, I remember our first apartment, I told him some weird stuff. And I know because he even said, like, he's like, I remember when you used to say that stuff. It's like, yeah, I've been saying it this entire time. I
Yeah.
dropped some hints about how weird I was. And then, like, I knew he just thought it was strange. And then, like, after Brent passed, before Brent passed, I would see, like, this is not even a joke, I would see, like, cats everywhere. Like, I saw cats everywhere. Like, white cats, and they would be in our house. And I'm like, dude, I just saw this white cat. And then it was funny, our kids, they saw this little boy, and our daughter saw a man, and my son saw the same boy, and one time my daughter said she saw this man in her bedroom playing saxophone, and she was like 4, and he's like, I'm not sleeping in there. I was like, I'll sleep in there.
That sounds like you can handle that one.
I was like, I'll sleep in there. So I went in, and I slept in there, and I didn't have a problem. And so anyway, this kind of developed into, and I would tell him, I said, I saw somebody, I saw this cat, and he would always say, oh, and then
we nicknamed it Ghost Kitty.
Then
I was like, oh, did you see Ghost Kitty again?
So one time we were in the house, and one of my friends that I went to high school with, she's like, when did you guys get a white cat? And I went, And he's like, I'm like, ha ha ha. So anyway, I go, oh, you saw the cat, eh? She's like, what? I'm like, yeah, there's a cat here. So that was one of them. And we moved here. I saw some stuff here. And then we lived here for, about 3 years. We had the house before my brother passed away. And then, I saw some stuff, and I told him about it. And then after my brother, then it just got more and more and more and more and more. And, it's like, I can't deny who I am anymore. I mean, I'm just not going to. As soon as I started, then it was like a floodgate.
And, it's interesting. I'm thinking of a story that, so there's this guy named Michael Jaco. He has a channel, Intuitive Warrior or something. Anyway, he's a Navy SEAL guy, and he started working on his intuition. And in any case, he was telling a story about how...
Intuitive Secrets? It might be
Intuition Secrets. Something.
Yeah, that's it.
Michael Jaco. In any case, you can find him. He told a story of he was getting these hits from his intuition about past lives and things like that, and he kept denying like who he was being told he was. Right? He's like, "Nah, I can't be that guy. He was too important. Nah, I can't be that guy. I can't be that guy." Well, he was developing all these blocks by resisting that, and just like ascension pains, he was having all this pain all over his body. Well, when he finally just accepted, like, his guides and everything telling him who he was, he accepted it. All the pain flooded out of him, and then all his memories from that past life flooded in. So he was like resisting this, but as soon as you let down the resistance of the higher, it floods in. So that was. It's very similar.
And then it was like my Kundalini started going off, and I was having all these blocks in my spine, and that was all happening at once. So not only was like, it was morning, I was having the freaking Kundalini. I had all that all at once, and then I have dead people talking to me. And it's not like I didn't feel like I was going nuts enough. All that stuff was going on when my kids were in school. It's like, it was a lot, and there was a lot of stress at home, like in my family, like my mom and dad's side, all that, and it was just so much, and it was like so much stress that it was like I just thought I'm gonna blow, like it was really bad, and then it's just like all of a sudden, like, I started like trying, like hard to see it a different way. And I bought some books. I bought this one journal thing. I bought a couple things, and I tried doing those. And it was in like March of 2019, and I started it started turning around. I started to like feel much better. But mind you, I was sleeping a lot, but that was because of the Kundalini. Well, I didn't know. I mean, I was exhausted, and I was sleeping a lot. It's like all day and all night, and then I had a heck of a time getting to the kids to up for school. But it wasn't because I was depressed. It was because I was going through all this stuff and I needed sleep. And while I was sleeping, I'd have these massively vivid dreams. And when you go through ascension, you get these crazy dreams. And so I was doing that. And then when I finally started coming out of it, that's when I had to uncover all the blocks. Oh my God.
And
I feel like the first block was my brother's death. That was a big one. And I got, before the situation here, that was pretty much gone.
yeah,
And then it was ego death, about a million of them. And it was one thing after another. It was like every time, like everything that you think of yourself as a woman, like these, the attributes, I guess, that make you a woman, like not just like a bodily whatever, but just about like, having children or being married, your sex appeal, your being a mother. I felt like all of it came into question in like 6 months. It was like, like, oh, I just wanted to just die about every 2 minutes. And
very similar to Adam and Eve when they were in
yeah,
darkness.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, the Dark Knight. Now that we know, like, with the different timelines and how that all like plays out, this timeline has played out millions of times over the centuries. Uh, you know, millennia of people having to go through these blocks, and what I believe is every time you are incarnated down here, you have to um, learn a lesson as part of your soul growth. This is your school. And I believe when you're finally done, that's when you fully ascend. But you might have to go into the next life and the next life and the next life. It's just like a karmic debt. It's like it just keeps getting paid. It's like what God said to Adam and Eve. This debt's not going to be paid until I come 2,000, 5,000 years from now. Whenever he forgives everybody for all this. And it's like, that's a lot. That is a lot. So, if you think of your life in terms of that, and you let go of these major things like death, and you let go of things like money and possessions and stuff like that, then you could actually have a pretty damn good life, and you could really learn a lot. And you could learn a lot from homeless people, and you could learn a lot from children. And, but if you don't let go of things, if you don't let go of everything that's holding you here, then you're just going to be stuck again. And you're going to have to do it again.
Yeah. So, picture I have is God's handing you all this stuff, but your hand is full, so you got to let go of some of that to get more. Right?
I had this perfect. I listened to this one. We'll leave it this maybe. I listened to this. I guess you would say like maybe like a prophet or something, and he was from Ireland, I believe, and he was very interesting, and he would heal people. Like he would go on the streets and heal people, and he knew how to heal people, and he taught people how to heal people. This one woman asked him if he would teach her, and he said, well, yeah, I could teach anybody how to do it, and you can do it, but you have to believe. And it's what we talked about. You have to believe before you receive. If you want something to happen, you have to believe that it's already happened, and it will happen, because we are very powerful at manifesting. And so this man, he was telling this woman, he had this whole big thing about it, and he said she didn't really believe in God. And he told her, he said, but you're saying that you're like spiritual. And she said, well, yeah. He said, but you don't believe in God. And she's like, well, I don't know. And he started talking about bad spirits and everything. And he told her that she had like some bad spirits. And she didn't believe him that, she's like, because, she was a decent person, there was no reason. And so he had told her how he heals people. He touches them. And he just goes real easy. And he can make anybody and heal anybody. And so he went up to her and he touched her. And she was like insane. She like moved the ground and she was like thrashing and crazy ass sounds were coming out of her mouth. I mean, I watched this on television. I was like, holy shit. But then you think, oh man, maybe she's faking it. I don't know. Yeesh. But anyway, she was going kind of nuts. And he waited, and he just sat there and he just believed that. And, she asked him, like, what, and he believed that she was healed. And when he touched her, that whenever he touched her, all the demons would come out. And he washed. And people, they were out in public, like on the street. I mean, she's thrashing. And he's just touching her like this. And then he waited. And she was like, her eyes got really wide. She's like, oh my gosh. And then as he stopped, he had these glasses on the table. And they were all water glasses, right? There was I don't know, let's say 12. I don't know how many there were. And he had a pitcher of water. And he had one of the glasses in the middle. It was turned over. And he was filling the glasses with the water. And he said, these are the people, in church, and he's filling, or not necessarily in church, but people that are being filled up and turning towards God and getting their cup filled. And he said, but you can't fill a cup that is turned over, that's not looking, that doesn't want to be filled, that doesn't want to know anything, that absolutely refuses. And he goes, but watch what happens when I turn the cup over. And because he poured the cup and the water came down the side and he's watching it and it goes into the cup. And she was really he goes, all you have to do is believe that you will heal somebody and that you can do it because of God. And God will work through you because that's how God works. God works through us. We're the people. We have this consciousness and we're all hooked together. But we all have this God spark. And God works through us. And if we don't turn inward toward God, He can't come through. He can't work through us if we're not turning towards Him. So she was really getting in the spirit. She felt it. She felt good. She just had all these demons come out. And God was telling her about God. And so she was sort of getting her cup filled when He was telling her about God. So she was really excited. So after just say a couple of hours or so, because it was several hours later, she was in town and there was somebody and they were sitting on a bench or something. And they felt really bad, like their ankle was broken or something. And she went over and she said, can I heal you? And the person was like, and she went down and touched their leg and they stood up and they walked.
That's
and a
awesome.
broken leg. It's like, oh my God. And it was this whole story. I was like, holy cow. But it was all about how, when you believe that something's already happened, that's how it works. That's how God works. If you believe this is the highest and greatest good, this is for love, this is an unconditional love sort of thing, you're not going to hurt anybody. It's not like, oh, I believe that this person's going to die. No, you can't do that. You're interfering with somebody's.
It's called black magic.
Horrible free will. It's but if it's meant to happen, it'll happen. And it's through this beautiful thing. And I don't know, it was just so beautiful the way the story was. And they videotaped it. And she believed in it. Now she goes everywhere and she heals people.
That's awesome. Well, they say every person has this ability.
Well, yeah, so you can do it. I mean, and that's what you
God,
have to have faith.
God source connection to God, and then the quantum, healing of it all. Believing that it's going to happen,
Absolutely.
that it's already happened. Greg Braden has a video where a tumor is healed, out of nowhere doing this.
Look at Peter. Jesus is they're on the water, and there's a bad storm, and the boat's going all over the damn place, and they wake up Jesus. Jesus is exhausted, and they wake up Jesus because the storm's really bad, and he's like, basically, what have I been doing this entire time? I've been showing you guys.
I have my closest disciples, students with me.
Yeah.
And you got to wake me up. It's like, what have I been showing you?
Yeah, and he's like, come on, and he and Peter go outside and go on the water, and Peter's following behind Jesus, and he's keeping his eye on Jesus, and he's walking on water. And then whenever Peter took his eyes off Jesus, he began to sink. And then Jesus reaches back and grabs him. But the whole purpose of that story is to let you know when you keep your eyes on that, you're good. You've got the world. When you're in the shadow of the Almighty, that's in the right spot.
So, wrapping this all up into a timeline dimensional talk. Through this ascension process, as we work through these blocks, we are collapsing the timelines into the highest one. And for us to survive through this highest timeline, we need to drop all the attachments and fill ourselves with God source.
Yeah.
So.
And we all come from all the timelines. And so the whole purpose is that this isn't your first rodeo. And we're supposed to remember why we're here and why we came here and what we did. I don't think only because it's necessarily so important that we remember who we are, but we get rid of the blocks. And we don't do those again.
To remember that we're not just these bodies.
Yeah.
We're not this ego. But
yeah.
We're
so much more.
Immortal souls connected to God.
The whole point is we're immortal. This is not death. This isn't the end. People freak out about that. Excuse me again. The whole fear-based mentality of everything. And once you let go of that fear, there's nothing left. I mean, it's actually so freeing to be able, my biggest one was I guess just, the funny thing is, I guess death would have been my biggest one, and losing you and this stuff.
Yeah.
I had a massive panic attack about that. But it was, I don't want anything ever to happen to my children and our children, and it would drive me nuts. But then I realized, what I was doing, I was almost manifesting it because I kept concentrating on it so much, it was driving me crazy.
The worry of it. Yeah.
So I'm like, oh God, I don't want to do that. Once I knew that, I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. And I let go of all those ridiculous things, and everybody felt it. Everybody felt felt the rope was off of them. I wasn't clinging on to them so much. And I have a great relationship with my family. I have a great relationship with my son and my daughter. My daughter wants to move into a mansion someday, and she doesn't want any of us to live with her. And I think that's amazing. And our son, he wants to travel the world in a RV or something. I don't know. He wants to do something. He's got a whole bunch of plans.
He's young yet. He's got a lot of crazy ideas.
Go to Japan and
it's really good.
Be a video gamer and do all kinds of stuff. And good for them. I want them to do whatever the heck they want, and I don't want to be holding them behind. And just like I didn't want to be held behind, and I don't want to do that to them. So you don't want to hold on too tight to anything. So.
All right. Let's wrap it up.
Guess we're done. So that was timelines and dimensions, and so next week,
I don't know. We'll think about it.
I have no idea. Maybe we'll talk.
There might be another table I get attached to.
Oh God, I hope not. See you guys later. It was Awakening Talk. Bye. Don't forget, we have a website, and our website we have a blog, and we have new blogs every day. See ya.
Bye.